Story time on the day I found out my brother passed. I wanted to talk about this because I feel like it's not talked about enough. Losing a sibling. We talk about losing your parent, losing a child, losing a pet, which are all equally devastating. But I feel like it's not talked about when you lose a sibling, especially in my case. My brother was very young and it was very unexpected. It was nothing I had time to plan for or even have time to just say goodbye. So the morning of, it was Memorial Day weekend, and I had that whole day planned out, the whole weekend rather, because I had just gotten a new job and I had just gotten my very first paycheck, and I was excited to blow all my money and go see the Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid was coming out that weekend, and I had everything mapped out. I was going to have a good Memorial Day weekend and just enjoy myself. Well, Sunday morning, my joy came to a halt. My father called me at around 6 a.m. and I knew, my dad's an early riser, so I kind of figured in my mind, oh, he probably just calls to talk, so I'll get to him later. I'm too tired to answer the phone right now. But then when he called back immediately a second time, I knew something was wrong. Immediately when I picked up, he says, "I got some bad news." And I go, "What? Is something wrong with?" I'm thinking of the older generation. I'm thinking, is something wrong with my grandfather? Is something wrong with mom? Is something wrong with you? When he told me that your brother was killed last night in a car accident, everything went numb. Everything was in slow motion. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even get any words out. I didn't even cry initially. That's how much in shock I was. I heard my father say he'll call me back, but I heard his voice breaking. Then when I hung up, I stared for a second. I just stared at the wall. Then I had to make the phone call to my uncle, and I had to make the call to my grandfather. And I heard my grandfather break down. Now, normally, the men in my family are made of steel, as I like to say. But when I heard my grandfather break down in the background, it was devastating. I couldn't take it. I stayed in bed that whole day. The only time I got up was to go to the bathroom. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I pretty much was just numb. Then I go on Facebook and I see everybody posting about him and saying, like, I can't believe this happened. And it triggered me. And then all of a sudden, I finally broke down. My brother was a very big part of my life. Uh, I want to say, I kind of feel what a mother feels when they lose their child. I actually don't have children, but I kind of can feel that pain that they feel because I am the eldest, and I always looked at my siblings like my babies, and me and my brother were always close, and I hadn't spoken to him in a few months prior to that. And it was more devastating because I didn't get to say goodbye. And a part of me was feeling like I wanted to protect him that night. I wished I could have protected him that night. You know, maybe I could have stopped in front of the car to prevent the car from hitting him. It was a lot of what ifs going through my mind, or like, what if I had been there, or maybe if I could have called him, I could have distracted him from getting in the car. So many thoughts were going through my head. And even now, it still feels unreal. There are times where I look at his Facebook and I wait for him to post something. Family events, I do kind of hope that he'll walk through that door at any given moment. It's I feel like a part of me died with my brother. A part of me lost my zest for life. And if the people who know me, they know I'm a very, very upbeat, social, personable kind of person. And since my brother passed, I have noticed a change in myself. There are days when I'm okay. There are days where I just cry out the blue. There are days where I just don't feel like talking. I'm just not in a good mood. I don't really believe that there is a way to cope with losing a sibling. Like I said in my case, I feel like when you're a young person, you kind of prepare yourself to lose your parents, lose your grandparents, or the older generation, because at some point they're getting up there in age, their time is coming. So you kind of mentally prepare yourself for that. My brother's death took me for a loop. And it's safe to say I will never be the same person I used to be before he died. I will always miss that world I was in when my brother was in it. I try my best to keep moving forward and keep living, because now I have to keep living through him. I always said I would never get a tattoo, and lo and behold, I got this tattoo to honor him. And I needed that for myself. But I don't feel like it's talked about enough when you lose a sibling. I feel like there will always be an ounce of sadness in me because my brother is no longer here. I remember when all this went down, I was watching a video of Billy Bob Thornton, who also lost his brother, and I remember him saying, "I'm 50% happy and 50% sad at any given moment." And I just remember relating, like, wow, that's me. I'm 50% happy and 50% sad at any given moment. It doesn't take much. There are times where I find myself holding one of his hoodies or spraying his cologne in the air or just spending hours looking at his pictures and his videos just to keep the memory going and hopefully help me to heal a little better. And I have people tell me all the time that, you will come to terms with this in time. I personally do not believe I will ever come to terms with my brother not being here. I feel like I will always have that sadness. And it's something I wouldn't wish on anybody, not even my worst enemy. It's an unimaginable pain. It's an internal pain. I feel like everything is a constant reminder that my brother is no longer here with me. No longer here to be that life of the party person that he was. He brought so much light to this world. And it's so sad that light had to be dimmed. Like if you would like to hear what happened at the funeral.